McKenna. Roaches leads in the Robertson.
It's coming home. It's coming home, Ben. Miller, the curse is finally over. The curse is finally over. Remember, guys, we wrote the rules of the game. We wrote the rules back in, what was it, 150 years ago. We wrote the rules. This win is largely due to the support of you guys. Hey guys, we're back again. Russell Robertson live.
Robertson! Out of nowhere! Robertson! Out of nowhere! Robertson! Out of nowhere!
We wrote the rules of the game. You stitched me out there. So it's what is it? It's all about me. It's the Russell Robertson live show. It's about the Melbourne Football Club, and then the intro is all just my hangers.
Yeah.
I did not do that. I have to say, I did not do that. This is Digital Dave, everyone. You remember from last year, the singer, who does all of this wonderful stuff. He's the tech guru.
Thanks,
and you
mate.
stitched me up big time.
I did. But I'm not finished stitching you up yet.
Oh.
You know what I was doing a couple of weeks ago? I was looking around for some things on you, and it's so easy to find like highlights of you taking high flyers.
Yeah.
But I went shopping and I went into a CD shop. Remember CDs?
Don't even start. Don't even start.
You know what I bought? And I said I was always going to stitch you up with it.
You found it. Was it in the bargain bin?
Russell Robinson higher. There it is. Still shrink wrap. If anyone wants the Russell Robinson higher original signed CD, we're going to sign it, actually. Mm-hmm. I've got a pen somewhere.
Can I explain that CD? I can't.
Yes. Yeah, of course you can. It's your show.
Firstly, can I say hello to
Robin
everybody?
has the CD.
Of course she does. These
would
are my
buy this?
people. These wonderful people. Ruth, Tori, Matthew, Matty, of course, Robin, they would do anything for Robbo. Because
Yeah.
I would do anything for them.
Ah, Nikki loves the album. What? I've not even looked what's on it.
What happened was I got asked to do It Takes Two in a time where Melbourne was going pretty poorly. And we never really got on TV. We never got our brand on TV. It was always Collingwood people. It was always, Richmond. It was always, all those people always got on TV. And we could never get anyone doing anything. And, you're not supposed to go on a TV singing show when you're playing AFL footy.
Not supposed to, but
Not while
some
you're
people are
actually-
talented to be able to do both, which was you.
So they asked me to do a nice, the club said, yeah, go for it. It might be actually a little bit of good. And it was at the start of the year. So it wasn't finals. It wasn't getting, and I was so lucky to get paired up with Kate Sobrano. It's fairly
Did they
airbrushed.
Photoshop you?
It's fairly airbrushed.
Have you guys seen this? Like, I'll
It's in
show
iTunes.
you. It's in iTunes.
It's in iTunes, mate. Download it. I don't get any money if you download it. I don't get any money if you buy the CDs. I got all the money way back when. They paid me once off, and I was very happy with that. You used to watch your boys, the West Coast Eagles, over in Western Australia on Subiaco, on the Wacker. I played my first game on the Wacker against a mammoth team. They were giants over there. Djakovic. Reel them off for me.
Djakovic, Worsfold, McKenna, Monkey Brennan,
Sumic.
Peter Sumic,
Matera.
Brett Hetty, David Hart, Don Pike,
Who's your favourite?
Laurie. Who's my favourite?
Who was your favourite back then?
I'm pretty simple. I'm from Perth, so I really liked David Hart because his first name's
Mainwaring?
David.
Yeah.
But
David
no, I
Hart,
wasn't main wearing. Like I
Waterman?
was big. Waterman, but a big fan of Bluey McKenna. Always like tough. Those between McKenna and Worsfold, they were bruising, hard back guys, and they really. I was talking to Bluey at one point about how they almost sort of invented the idea of switching the play and going the opposite direction. They sort of started to play this soccer game of like, let's not just kick it down the line every time to these packs. Let's actually look after the ball. And I thought that was pretty unique. And they were tough, man. And the fact that you played your first game on Woosha that's
Woosha.
exciting.
First game on Woosha.
Imagine that.
And then for the rest of it, McKenna. And then after that, it was blokes like, Chick.
Yeah, they're big guys.
Just big, strong guys, and we always knew we were up against it when we played against the West Coast Eagles. So it's interesting you say McKenna was one of your favourite players.
Yeah, we got him on the show.
We've got him on the show.
He's here, I think.
He's here, and you need to go and find him because I think he might be actually out the front because he was just running late. He's been doing some work. He actually works for Victorian
Cricket Victoria.
He loves
the way
his
around.
Cricket Victoria. Does a great job there. He was a Gold Coast Sun. But I think it gets lost and we forget what a tremendous player that this guy was, Peter McKenna. He is in the AFL Hall of Fame.
Guy McKenna. Peter McKenna was the Collingwood guy. I think he played at Collingwood, Peter McKenna. No relation,
Peter
maybe?
McKenna, Guy McKenna. God.
Yeah. Bluey McKenna.
Bluey McKenna was a superstar. And we've got the proof right here. Roll the video.
Pretty exciting to have him on the show. I'm going to go grab him.
Go get him.
So I'll put this on and we'll get him on.
Number 17. Guy McKenna.
We were just probably all grateful that Carl Langdon was playing that day because he copped most of it. Louis copped a bit. Brett Eddy, you can pick up SBS with those things. And
Their first grand final, remember, at the MCG for the club. They were at Waverley Park last year.
obviously it was a lot more invigorating than running onto Waverley the year before. And that was probably it. And that's where I think when you burst out on the ground and it's the MCG, I think, and the roar goes up, I think then you know you're alive. One lesson probably Mick's always said about football clubs and coaching and premierships and playing with blokes, it's about respect versus like, and you want to walk out of a football club respected. It's just when you come back into a room with them all again, it's like you only played the game on the weekend, and I think that's where that bond is, and I think it's forged because of respect.
1992, what a time, my friend. 1992. I mean, I remember it as a young man in Tasmania. Welcome to the show, Bluey. It's great to have you, mate.
Pleasure, Robbo.
You're looking more grey and
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying you're looking less red, which is a good thing.
I know. Well, us Rangers, mate, we miss the grey. We go straight to white, actually.
Yes, you do. I've gone straight for it. How about me? I remember watching that grand final, those couple of grand finals, and thinking, wow, this team, new West Coast Eagles, very early 90s, and just so strong from the get-go. Tell me about that time, mate. It must be just a special time in your life.
Oh, yeah, I mean, to be, obviously the first club, that's the thing. Like, Brisbane have won them, Adelaide's won them under Blighty, but to be the first interstate club to take the cup, 8 out of
Victoria.
Out of Victoria, that's pretty special, something that they can't take away from.
No, ever. The Victorians must have hated it at the time. I don't know, because I wasn't here. I was in Tassie.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I always tell two quick. I'm not going to tell them now. We don't have time. But two quick stories about experience at Hawthorn when we played Hawthorn the year before in '91. Where I thought we were in at 10 points down at three-quarter time, but then your Hawthorn experience, Dermot, Dunstall, these blokes just went to another level. We couldn't go.
Yeah.
So that was my lesson in experience. That year was a lesson in passion because, as you say, to be the first Victorian, non-Victorian team to take it out the cup out of Victoria. I remember Woosha, we did 3/4 a lap. You get Southern Stand, you face them, you get your medals, you run around up to Punt Road and you come past the members and you're facing the city. Yeah. And there was still 10 or 15 Geelong supporters, scarves on, beanies on, and they were saying words I've never heard before, giving us signals and carrying on like pork chops. And I grabbed Woosha. I remember grabbing Woosha. I said, look at that, mate. That's what you call passion. They paid their $250 and they're giving it to us. And I said, they've got no right. We've just beaten their side. They're always going to go down in folklore as the first Victorian team to lose the grand final to us. But they're just giving it to us. It was just hilarious. But, yeah.
Tell you what, when you're in enemy territory, there's no better person to pull closer to you than Woosha.
I want to say I grabbed him, mate. She came out from underneath his jumper, actually.
Well, I played my first game on Woosha. So I debuted on him. So I've got special memories. And look, obviously the reason we're talking today is because we're playing the Eagles this weekend over there. It was always a really tough road trip during my era. Yeah. And even before when Gary Lyon was going against you guys, it was always tough to go over the Nullarbor and take on the West Coast Eagles. But my first game was at the Wacker on Johnny Wharf's. So I've walked out. Get this, and I've looked at all you were there. I've looked at who's going to get me, and he starts walking over, and I'm like, oh, no, I've heard about you. Yeah.
Well, at least you broke the ice with him before he broke your nose.
The game was, I couldn't really shake his hand because the game had already started. He was doing that thing where as I was walking, he kept treading on the back of my boots to try to get them off. And I'm just thinking, please stop. Intimidation factor or really a tough guy?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. He'd do it any young kid, but anyone he played on, he'd get into. I remember Tony Evans at the Wacker, I was in the same game. We're playing Geelong. I wasn't playing. I was up in the stand, and Evo came up to me after the game. Tony Evans, he'd normally be an on-ball tagger, but he was down the back line, had to pick up someone. He was following one of the Geelong players down there, Buddha Hocking or someone like that, and after the game, we had a good win, and Evo, Bluey, come over here. I said, what? How do you play with this idiot? I said, what are you talking about? He said, Woosha. Mate, all he wants to do is pick fights. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I'm standing there at half-back, keeping an eye on the game. I'm looking after my man, a bit nervous the first time I played in the back, and all I could hear was, hey, Evo, you ever seen someone's head explode? And he's thinking, well, no, I haven't, but what do you mean? And he sort of half, nervously turned around and looked at, I'm going to punch this young kid's head that hard in the back of the head, his head's going to explode. And then the Geelong runners run past, I don't listen to Worsfold, he's old, he's cranky and all that sort of stuff. Hey, I'm going to punch him in the head now. I come and punch you in the head, So
I love that.
Yeah, just as you say. In Tim, I mean, this is the thing. I think he only got reported maybe once or twice, I think. He would play hard. And again, mind you, Mick used to wind him up a bit to go and, knock this bloke. Look, but I mean, as many times as, if you set on a mission to do that, you really you really get it ticked off. Whereas he, I reckon maybe once he did it, but...
I reckon once or twice he got caught is what you're really trying to say. Because look, Davo was happy because I don't know if he's happy at the moment because he's a West Coast supporter. Not going so well at the moment the last couple of years. Yeah. Davo, you're happy at the moment, aren't you? You've got one of your old boys you used to watch running around. Was it Subi, the Wacker? What was the go, you guys?
Big fan.
Yeah.
Big fan?
Well, Friday nights was always the Wacker.
Right.
That was always because they had the big light or the 1300 luxes that were the Wacker. Yeah. So that was, and it was just pristine. It was like a bowling green to play on. So the bounce was always true. In the early days of Subi, mate, it was a bit of a goat field, a goat paddock, and ball used to move around. And then it got resurfaced. It became good too. But then they redid it, and they ended up having. Basically playing at Subi, and now obviously big enough now they had to go to Optus.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going to Optus. We were talking about that before, weren't we, Davo? What do you got there? You've got your
Mate,
old...
I got my 91 Eagles signed football.
Look at
Louis,
that. 91.
Remember 91?
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't. Yeah, we do, but I don't like to talk about it.
91.
There was a grand final, wasn't it? I think there was an asterisk there. It was out at Waverley. No one counts that. But you mentioned that to the Hawthorn supporters. They're of a different opinion.
It's the greatest grand final of all time, that one. Not at all. What are your memories, Davo, of that era? Because there were some great players. I mean, I've got some written down here. Jakovic, Worsfold, we've already talked about, Waterman, Brennan. Great footballers.
Man, just the fact that Bluey lives around the corner and I saw him running one day and I was going to chase after him. Because I was like, that's one of my idols. Like, I grew up in Perth. I loved watching you guys. Our defence, our backline your backline was set the standard. And then when we won in 92, 94, just... It's a ridiculous.
Righto, Davo, that's enough of it.
Sorry, I'll get off now. I'll go back to the electronics.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned...
Just press the buttons,
I'm just really excited Bluey's here. So, hey, Robbo, what are you doing? Can you get off so I can talk to him?
Well, you mentioned 92. I still shake my head. I was just talking to someone the other day about it. Peter Summers kicked 6 straight, which, mind you, that was a record in itself. Yeah. He rarely kicks straight in summer, but kicked 6 straight. He's our full forward. We had a bloke on the wing that won the Norm Smith. He had 8 shots on goal. He kicked 5 goals, 3 Peter Matera. From the wing.
That's unreal.
I mean, some wingmen wouldn't have 8 shots in a season. He's had 5 in a grand final. And on Toby Bairstow, who can play a bit too, just quietly.
Underrated Peter Matera. I mean, obviously, Western Australia knows what he is, but and we know what he is over here. But being that team over there in the West, sometimes I think the superstars like Pavlich playing for Freo, if he played in Victoria, would be even bigger still. I don't know, but Mundy, great player, played for 100 years. Yeah. We're talking about our boys playing over there at the moment. I've had some real great memories of playing in Western Australia. 2004 was a great game for us. So the Melbourne, because this is a Melbourne show, and I'm hoping a lot of West Coast fans tune into this as well. They'll remember 2004. Did you play in 2004? No. Round 14, I think it was. You were injured. We were really injured that day. I'm going to get David to find some footage maybe later on. Yeah. I've had the game of my life.
Showtime,
I'm thinking, well, this is easy over here, the big wild spaces of the West, because you could run around. Oh, yeah. As a half-back flank, it would have been tough out there because you've got to chase these small half-forward flankers around. How'd you go out in those big grounds?
Well, I didn't mind those because you could work the angles. So that was the thing. Most of the time, obviously, the Melbourne grounds, you could, it's very compact and it was sort of all in. It's almost like trying to play a game inside a tent. But when you got to the Wacker and Subi, and I never played on the Optus, but it's such a wide ground, you could actually start to work the angles. And some of the Victorian teams would always struggle to kick to the full forward line. So as a defender, you could just drop off your man and sink back and nail those passes. But I mean, I know you're around about trying to get there, mate. The reason you love. Well, how long was Melbourne's last grand final, and where did they win it?
They won it over there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
No
we
wonder you're
struggled.
so big smile on your face.
Yeah. But in your day, you had a thing against Melbourne. You were telling me that I had no idea about, so it was very interesting. So Melbourne were a team that you loved to hate, but then off the field you had some good mates as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh yeah, well initially obviously we lost the elimination final, the first final,
which all our fans would remember.
The final series we got into out at Waverley as well. A few blunders, namely one by me, and I always say Ricky Jackson. He made Woosha jump out of the way, and he dropped one, and they've kicked a goal, and Murray Renstead missed a late shot, and David O'Connell, a good friend, he missed an absolute sitter up the other end, but Murray unfortunately was the last shot on goal for us, and it missed, and we lost that final, and so naturally Mick, he's got a memory like an elephant, so it was always us versus them, and remember what they did to us, and it went on for about 15 years, I reckon.
He doesn't hold a grudge.
No. Anyway, and then there was an incident with John Northey coaching. One of the trainers got involved with one of our trainers, and it was just his hatred. Yeah. And I remember, I think it was my first Brownlow, and so it was the second one for the club because I didn't join the first year. I went over the second year with them, and it was we got table 147 out near the kitchen somewhere or near the fire exit because we didn't want West Coast here and up in the front, and we're sitting around at the end of the night, and we didn't know what protocol was. We better start going, and most of the tables had all cleared. Literally, there's only about 3 or 4 tables left, and all of a sudden this wolf whistle came across the ballroom where we're up, and it was the Melbourne boys, Gary Lyon and Big Strawberry Dry, Rodney Grinter, giving us the whistle. Hey, you West Coast blokes, get over here. We're all, we didn't know what's it going to be on, is it? We're going to fucking roll up the sleeves and get it on. And come on, have a Carlton draft, you blokes, come on. And it was just brilliant. And we thought it just broke bread and broke the ice. And from then on, we went on and had a few extra hours down in the casino and all that sort of stuff. It was like the breaking of bread. It was actually a really good connection. And from then on, like fierce rivals on the field, but off the field, arm around, buy a beer and all that sort of stuff.
Do you feel that isolation? Because we've got a lot of Melbourne supporters tuning in now. The West Coast Eagles are an unknown quantity for us because you're so far away. Do you feel so isolated over there in the West and it's us against the rest of the Eastern Seaboard? And obviously Fremantle comes in, but it's us against them.
Oh, no question. Yeah, and even Adelaide, Brisbane, it's all sort of 2-hour flights and 40-minute flights when you consider Victoria and we're down to Tassie. Oh, but Western Australia is just like literally it's another.
It's Europe.
Yeah, it's another 2 years. Well, you can fly to New Zealand from Victoria. You can go interstate, and that's why most Western Australians go to Bali because it's closer than anywhere in Australia, just about. So there is that isolation, and Mick was just magnificent about it's us versus them. It was the WA versus the rest. It's still he used to always call it VFL, and the Western Bulldogs he used to always call it Footscray. Never changed. Never called them the Western Bulldogs. It was always Footscray. Sort of the old-fashioned names.
The good old days. The good old days.
So he used to play on that a lot. But that said, mate, I know this is a D show, but one thing I can actually hang my hat on and be proud of is that of all the big clubs, and we're talking sides we've played since we came into the competition. So not the GWS, Gold Coast, the recent clubs. But there's one record that the D's supporters not going to be happy with. Is actually the best record we've got against all the VFL then / AFL clubs is
Melbourne.
Beloved D's, mate.
And that's history, though. That's ancient history.
Okay, you're a part of those too, some of those losses.
Yeah, shut up. Move on. This is my show.
Sorry,
you're right. You're 100% right. But and it has turned a little bit, which is, thank God. You know why it's turned? Because you went and made the ground the same size as the MCG, you bloody idiots.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the isolation. That said, I must say, again, everyone initially thought the travel, and I used to say, you can't tell me, like Russell Robertson playing for the Melbourne D's. If he went and played and had the same career at West Coast, you have to be shortened because you're travelling that distance every second week, of course. That said, then after a while, I reckon after the second or third year, it becomes a player's strength because you're used to it. Whereas you blokes, and I mean, we're jokingly, You're not allowed to mention Collingwood on
No,
the show.
no,
Sorry.
to not.
Well, even Melbourne, for
don't
example.
talk
So
about
if you
Beat that
go
out.
if you go to Marvel Stadium, the D's people and supporters will see that. Like Damien Hardwick did one year. That's a travel for them.
Yeah,
You know.
we don't go to
No. So, whereas because we do it every second week, it
Yeah.
becomes a strength of ours.
Yeah.
Whereas when a VFL or an AFL club that resides in Melbourne does it 3 or 4 times a year, it's
Yeah.
not really. You don't sort of get used to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas because you travel and Adelaide would be the same and Brisbane are the same, it actually becomes an advantage for you.
And you do when you travel. You're going together, and it creates that sort of togetherness. I reckon when you're going into enemy territory. Speaking of enemies, Davo found a video that I want to show you. We played in an era. Well, you more so than me because you're a little bit older than me. I came in. I'll remind you of that. I came in '97. You were starting around 90.
No, it's 88.
88.
Yep.
So you've really played some tough guys. None tougher than this fella here, Davo. Roll the tape on this one for me, mate.
And suspended. This time
There's you on the
striking West
ground.
Coast Eagles,
Now,
Guy McKenna.
what's happened to you, mate? Have you fainted or something? You run too hard?
Yeah. That was supposed to be the warm up.
Look
at that.
It got me in the sweat. I always say. Well, there's a bit of history, not a history, but I was actually sitting in the hole because my bloke would go up the ground, and the coach at the time, Toddy, said, "Would you just mind sitting back in the hole?" And they were winning it up the ground, and they were booting it to me. And in those days, it was fairly rare for someone to be sitting in a hole. They didn't know what that meant.
Was a rare new thing.
6 or 7. This was in the first quarter. I had about 6 or 7 marks sitting in the hole. I had about 10 possessions. I reckon I
counted every one of them.
Yeah, I reckon I had 10 for the whole, for the rest of the year. I reckon.
But get this redheaded.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can't join them, you beat them.
He's taken all my marks.
And then what had happened then was he was charging out. He'd won the ball. There's a free kick that I think Dean Laidley had pinged someone, and there was a free kick, and then Mick said never stop for the whistle, and the whistle I heard, and he's picked the ball up, and he's running towards me, and I'm thinking, well, I have to tackle him or attempt to try and tackle him. So I don't know whether you've actually tried to put arms around a light pole or something like that. Well, that's what it was like, and clearly I didn't get my arms fully around him, so I couldn't pin his arms.
Look at the body size difference.
Oh, he was enormous, but so powerful, and then the beauty about it, he just got me in the sweet spot, and then that was it. It was curtains.
Lights out. Yeah. Well, what's even funnier, and I mean, I shouldn't say that that's funny because we're laughing at your pain.
Yeah.
And I know you struggle to remember names now because of things like that. But have a listen to Tony Lockett. Can we pull this up, Davo?
Yeah, you want to hear him?
I want to hear what he says here. When interviewed by our great Eddie Maguire, well, not ours, but the great Eddie Maguire. He had a few run-ins with Eddie Maguire, but this is one of the good ones. Davo's got some great footage. Let's turn it
high
up.
profile, I guess people tend to take a little bit more notice of your actions than what they tend to do with other players. So I guess I was just one that was, taking a little bit more notice of than any other, and I just got caught out, I suppose. But,
You can stop it there, Davo. Basically, if you've got some time, have a listen on YouTube, fans.
He's unlucky, apparently.
Plugga reckons he's unlucky in that situation. Roll the tape again of him getting hit. Let's see it one more time. One more time. Can we? Oh, sorry. I'm making you work too hard over there. Don't do that.
I feel sorry for Bluey.
Bang! I'm watching it on a replay.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you can't.
He's unlucky.
I remember actually. The bit I do remember is getting when I woke up. I was on the stretcher, and I was just going through the old days of the players' races. They're all chicken wire, of course.
Yeah.
Get up, you weak sod. You're lying down. Get up, all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, are you serious,
As much as it's terrible because our game is so clean now, it's different, and we've gotten rid of that out of our game. We look at it and go, geez, Warriors out on it's like the Roman amphitheatre, you're going out. And the fans used to love that blood-curdling sort of stuff and getting smashed. So it becomes part of folklore, but wow. He reckons he's unlucky there, he got caught out. So unlucky to get seen there. If you did that now, how many weeks would you get?
Well, just take the season off. It's funny because Monkey Brennan obviously used to play me our fullback at the time.
Yep.
And he just, Plugga would be walking backwards towards the goal square and Monkey would be walking alongside him before the start of the bounce, and he just used to say to him, he said, mate, you can stand in front of me, you can stand beside me, you can stand to my left, my right, but if you grab my jumper, I'm going to kill you. So it was the only ever
I know
time.
those guys.
It was the only time I reckon the monkey used to play with football shorts with pockets in them, because that's where he'd put his hands straight in the pockets, because he was never going to touch Plugga, get his hands out of his pocket. But,
Hey, Robbo, I found you getting knocked out if it helps, mate. At least Bluey was putting his body on the line. Let's have a look at this.
I know what you're going to show.
Hey, there he goes.
Bang, out like a light, but came back pretty quick. See, that's me trying to entertain people, Davo. All right, I'm trying to be entertaining there.
Did you hit your actually head on the roof? Was that?
Yeah.
It wasn't the ground.
Nice, I'll go with that one. Oh, that ground's really hard. I've hit my temple right on the deck there. We were just trying to take hangers and be funny, and I got it really wrong.
Who was that blue runway in front of you?
That was Chrissy Johnson. Yeah, he's he and I were talking. We say, Robbo, you jump on me, jump on me. I tried. I failed.
Well, you really failed, mate. Your ears normally used to pop, mate. You used to get that high, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I used to...
get the nosebleed as well?
Used to try a little bit for a hanger every now and then. I never got one on you, though, did I?
No.
Played on you, but
Nick
I never
used
got...
to always say defenders play in front. I used to be, no, that's overrated.
No.
I'm not playing in front. No way. No.
Especially with Robbo in the area. Yeah. All right, so we talk about failures. I'm not saying West Coast are failures at the moment, but there was a big failure last week in terms of injuries for the Eagles. So let's rip into this game, because it's coming up pretty quick, and I'm looking forward for a W and I'm feeling confident because of those injuries.
Well, yeah, look, West Coast's not in a great spot. They haven't been, obviously, last year, the start of this season. I think in the next few games, so they got you blokes at home, and then the Cats away in the gather round.
Yeah.
And then Port, again, back in Adelaide. So that's 2 travels in a row, and then Blues at home. So they're in for a horrid month. And then if you want those senior boys, as you know, to sort of lead the way, take the shine off the ball, so to speak, and to lose those quality of players.
When you talk about McGovern, did his hammy, Shuey hammy, Cripps broken ankle. That's going to be quite a while, you would have thought. Ryan with his knee. Now, I don't know how bad that knee is. Forced to go back into the ground in the last couple of quarters there and just sit in the forward line. It was failing from underneath him. Who else? Witherden was concussed. Nick Nat hasn't played since 2000 when he was drafted. And you'd love to have someone like that out there. So it's really unfortunate, but it's just rubbing and salting into a wound at the moment with the West Coast Eagles, isn't it? How do we get you guys out of this? Or how do they get themselves out of it?
Well, the quick answer is they're just got to be very patient, because that's the thing. Those players you mentioned, so they're going to replace them now with kids that have played between 0 and 10 games. And so if you think the last 3 weeks have been bad, that's you can only hope. I mean, the kids will fly a flag and they have a crack, but again, I always go back to my time at Gold Coast. It'd be like the year 10s playing the year 12. So they'll hang in for a bit, but then all of a sudden it'll be like the pin going into the balloon and off it goes. And so, I mean, they didn't. I mean, they when I say quality senior players, clearly they're quality, but again, they're not going to be able to play at the levels they've been used to seeing over even the previous 4 or 5 years. You know, so they're at the wrong side of the mountain, and then, but more importantly, they're going to be throwing now 4 or 5 kids in
to play against Clary Oliver, who's this powerful 6 foot 1.5.
Yeah.
Petrarca, who's a huge beast of a man when he goes to the ball. Jack Viney likes to make sure you're tackled. Of course, the midfield's going to find it hard, but it's right across the board. And the West Coast has always relied on their size and their bigness around the ground. And then it just feels like they're getting smaller and smaller at the moment. But there's a positive in that. Look at the Saints. I mean, they're really injured at the moment. And the young kids are coming in and they're finding guys, aren't they?
Well, and that's probably thanks to Rats, in all due respect, for the previous 2 years where he's been there, where he's blooded some of these kids. And so, but he's replaced, so Rossi gets to play those kids that have played 20 or 30 games, getting close to that 40-odd games. So they've been in the system for 3 or 4 years. Simo, unfortunately, as you said, because of West Coast's great strength in Nick Nat and their midfield, all of a sudden Nick Nat gets injured and they go, well, who can ruck? Who are we going to throw in the ruck now? You know, Oscar Allen's hurt himself again too. So all of a sudden they're going, well, who do we throw in there? And then the midfield has been so dominant as well. So Shuey's down.
Yo's not there.
Yo's not there.
He's a good player.
All that sort of stuff. And you go, well, because of their great strength has been for the last 6 or 7 years, they've had no reason to play rucks or midfielders. So all of a sudden they have this plight of injuries and the sort of evolution of their list. And they got so all the kids coming in, I was just looking at their list before, they got blokes that have played 2 and 3 games. Yeah. So imagine them up against the D's this week.
Well, I said to Davo, who's playing in the ruck for you this week? He said Williams. I'm like, who?
Yeah.
You know, and that is a bit unfortunate. So Look, there's going to be wins, little wins here and there.
Yeah, well, the little wins will be seeing the kids fly a flag for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, And again, similar to my time at the Gold Coast, you look at Dion Presti and go, geez, there was something in that, wasn't there? And now look at him, he's gone off to Richmond and won flags, Well, Tommy Lynch, different sort of kettle of fish, but a bigger fella, same thing, all that sort of stuff. So that'll be the blessing in disguise for West Coast. So they're going to have to bleed some kids. They're going to throw some kids into the midfield and find out about them and actually give them some experience. And again, almost like the D's were 3 or 4 years ago. Clary Oliver, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be out? Now look at him. He's 80-odd games into a career now, and then he's a bona fide player,
Well, the only thing I'm worried about, though, is the age of the kids and the quality of the kids coming through. Like, I crossed to the ground recently, and I had a look at what they're thinking about, and I'm worried about it.
Yeah. Well, look,
it's going to take a while if this is what the Eagles have got.
Oh, well,
this is really blooding.
Blood them earlier.
Sorry, is that a ranger down the end too? There's a ranger down the end too.
Well,
it's going to. Well, that's it. And like I was talking to some friends of mine and about West Coast. We should be right. We should be right. I said, well, if anything, I look at North's list and even like a Hawthorn's list. They've already started this process a couple of years ago, and I mean, obviously Sammy Mitchell's a young coach, but Clarko at North, and so West Coast. If you think last year was bad, this year could be, and even like it's almost now pointing that way because of the injuries. It's going to be a tough year for Simo, that's for sure.
And Davo, we're talking about the West Coast Eagles, and you've got a little graphic there you want to talk us through. I can see it out the corner of my eye. It's a ripper.
I found this on one of the Melbourne fan forum pages. Which is
power drill, quarters drill, training drill. It's West Coast. Someone's got way too much time on their hands.
Well, mate. Well, that's it. When you look at all the great, like I know Maxi Gawn's injured, but Grundy, he slipped straight into what he did. Yep. And you look at as you said, you just mentioned those names about the midfield, and you go, well, who? It won't be like the year 10s playing the year 12s. It'll be like the year 8s playing the year 12s. And they're just going to it'll be like a 60-30 inside 50 count.
Yep.
It could be a record.
So it's a little bit of pain, you reckon, coming up for the West Coast Eagles supporters. Let's just ride it out. But just quickly before we move off this game, the Melbourne boys, I know you're a student of football. You always have been. You're a student of all sports, really. But the Melbourne boys have been pretty good over the last couple of years, haven't they? How do you see them this year after winning a premiership over in your neck of the woods?
Yep.
Come back to Melbourne, premiership hangover maybe.
Yep.
Geelong were fantastic last year. Didn't quite reach the heights. They were a bit knocked up towards the end of last year, Melbourne. And then this year they seem to be pretty good, except they kick up against Brisbane.
Banged up a little, as you say, last year. And then when you say the hangover, it's always hard. I'd say once you made the summit, what's after the summit? Yeah. And premierships are hard. So you take your hat off to all those clubs that have won back-to-back flags and some 3 in a row. So it's tough to do. It's so hard to do. And again, even like Geelong, you look at Geelong. So you look at them. They won last year, and look how they've started. So it's not that you want to do that. It's just, and again, quite simply, is because you're the premiers, you just know, or you can keep your level. Yeah. You might strive, but your gains are going to be very minimal. But the sides that have finished, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and even down the bottom, when they play the premiers, mate, as I'm sure you did when you were playing up against some of the premiership teams, I know I did. Hey, these are premiers, so this bloke can play. So all of a sudden, you might go up 20 or 30%. So there's a bigger shift for clubs that didn't win the grand final. So I get that. So it's not so much it's a hangover, it's more just these other sides. And it only takes, as you know, it's at 1 or 2%. Yeah. And mentally, they get themselves up, they knock you off, and you go, gee, but you'll finish thereabouts in the finals, but you just don't have that, the killer instinct, because you just used it all up almost the previous year. And then what Melbourne have obviously done over the pre-season have sort of galvanised that. They've relit the fire, stoked it up. Yeah. Had a few powwows with each other on and off the field, and boom, they're looking very sweet, I would have thought.
It's that old adage, isn't it? You become the hunted, don't you? Everyone's looking at you, and they've spent the whole summer emulating probably what you've done to win a premiership. This is what we need to be like. Geelong, that's happening to them, and maybe that's what happened to Melbourne. Hopefully we're going to emulate what you did in 92 to 94. We missed 93, you missed out. We won't talk about it, but 94, you got back there again. So I'm hoping that's what's happening here for Melbourne.
Well, I reckon, you're right, because we had some injuries in 93, but nothing catastrophic. We finished thereabouts, but we just didn't have that same glint in our eye and the hunger in our hearts. And looking at all the top sides, and you look who's in the better form and all that sort of stuff. And again, you're out of this week, and I reckon they'll be licking their chops after going over to the West and filling their boots up. And so confidence and belief and all that sort of stuff, it pays such a great thing. And if you can keep your list then healthy, it all goes well for the rest of the season.
Now, you spent some time with the Gold Coast Suns. Let's finish up on this. We talked about the game. Great era of West Coast stuff. I haven't mentioned yet that this guy is a AFL Hall of Famer, which is just... I'm waiting for mine. I don't know if it's going to come. It's not easy to get, so that's a huge deal, mate. And probably haven't given you enough credit for that over the years, but I respect you. The Gold Coast Suns it's tough to go up and coach a new team in a new competition. You were given the job early. How'd you find that project?
Oh, I loved it, mate. It was fantastic. And as you say, I mean, what a great honour to coach the 17th club to join the AFL. And again, like the grand final, a premiership, I should say, that can't be ever taken off you.
Yeah.
I like to think the graph was heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Maybe not as quick as everyone was hoping for, but yeah, it's a tough market, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity. I loved it. It certainly solidified a lot of sort of theories and thoughts I had around football and young kids coming into the game. We clearly, like GWS did, because our records were very similar with the young crew. But the beauty about GWS having obviously to sit and watch what we did, they went again and got some more senior players. We chose to sit with the kids still. And that obviously clearly backfired because we just kept getting younger and younger and younger. And I think there was a stat even in Rocket Eads' year that he played a side that was younger than one of my sides. Wow. And you just go, how can that happen? I mean, you put your kids in at school at year 8, 5 years later, they're in year 12. They don't get younger. Whereas Gold Coast, we actually got younger in my last year. And I'm going, hang on,
how's that
4
work?
years. It just and again, you look at the AFL ladder, mate. Generally, the top 4 sides are generally, and again, experience, not so much age, but experience in games. And the 4 bottom sides are the ones that are got the least experience. That said, you can be. This is when you worry is when you're down the bottom and you've got all the games of experience. And unfortunately, that's where West Coast at the moment. All their games are on their older, slower. Very good players, but they're just never going to be the superstars that they have been. So that's the concern for West Coast. But yeah, that's generally what happens. The older sides beat up on the younger sides.
And we got footage there, and Dave was showing some footage of you coaching from the bench. I reckon you could be one of the first to ever do that. That's a while back now. They all seem to do that now. What's the advantage of coaching from the bench in your eyes?
Well, the thing, as opposed to a phone call and talking obviously on a phone, you can actually get down there. And sometimes I'd use a whiteboard. A lot of the times, the catalyst for me was when the rotation started with Mick, and I was the midfield coach.
Yeah, right.
I had Burns, Buckley, Licuria,
Swanee.
Yeah, Swanee on that. Well, Swanee didn't offer a great deal. Mate. He just went out and played Swanee. He was fantastic. But, I'd have Mick ringing me, look, what's going on with the stoppages? Centre bounces. And I'd be looking at him and go, I've got no idea, actually. Burnsy, have a look at these stoppages. Tell me, the sweeper's getting drawn in. Hey, Mick, the sweeper's getting drawn in, But because we're all doing all these stoppages. But the other reason was, if you're going to be a line coach and you got 3 in those days, you're the 4 on the bench, the three were always generally mids or mid forwards. Right. Well, you can talk to them straight away, and you got opportunities. Why wait until quarter time and half time? So I started doing that as a midfield coach, and I had the IT assistant sitting behind me doing all the edits for the vision, so I could actually show them real-time vision of saying, right, here's a stoppage. What do you reckon, Burns? And he was fantastic. Awesome. Buckley was great at it as well. Yeah. Paul Curie, all these blokes were fantastic. But you could give them instant and live feedback. So, right, okay, that's what we need to do. Yeah. And almost be a coach because they could run out, hey, Robbo, make sure we're sweeping at this stoppage and all that sort of stuff. So from there, I didn't do it the first year. It was more the second year when when I say that, some of the senior boys were just getting a little bit impatient. They were expecting these, 5 to 10 game players to be playing like 110 game players. And so I went down there just to calm the fire a bit and still to do that development stuff. So Kenny and the other assistants, Dean Solomon up there, they did a fantastic job. Shane O'Brien was up there in the box. So I had full faith in them. Blighty was up there as well. So, he offered his assistance, of course. I think at times he took over too much, but thought he was coaching again. But so I was able to sit down there and have that season trying to educate those kids as best we could.
I'm so glad that we didn't have those edits back when I was playing, because I reckon I would have got a lot of what were you thinking there? What's that all about? All right, mate. We're going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining. It's Robbo Live. It's my show. I know it's Ty Kennelly said last week. It's about the demons, isn't it? It's called the Robbo Live.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
Come on, why not? It's going to be a good game this week. Obviously, for Melbourne's sake, I hope that we're going to win. I'm pretty sure you think Melbourne's going to win, but the West Coast Eagles, I hope they can get themselves back. They're a proud club. They will. It's been a couple of unusual years for them, and I'm sure the supporters are hating it, but they'll be right. Thanks for joining us, mate. Davo's got the. Have you got the graphic up there? Have you, mate?
I have, yeah.
Look at you go.
It's
Isn't it great?
$8 for the Eagles and $1.08 for the Demons. I actually thought it'd be maybe 10 or 12 or maybe 28.
Yeah. Jeez. And
You
the
never know, though. You never know. You
Yeah,
like
it's
the
funny
big
things
city.
have happened, but unfortunately, it's going to be hilarious this weekend. That's for sure.
I love your crowd, though. They still keep showing off. They're not going to Bali. They're
Oh,
showing
no,
up.
No.
Hey, mate, I talked about that game in 2004. As I leave you now, I'm going to show you some of the great footage of me rolling around in 2004, getting a Norwich Rising Star nomination.
Yeah.
Where am I getting
Why
that
don't you
from?
play
You, you can just find it. I'm sure you can find it. Not now. You'll be right. Good on you, Bluey.
try it.
Thanks
Thanks,
very
Robbo.
much, mate. Too
Pleasure,
easy.
mate.
Go down then to Adrian Barrett, who's got Russell Robertson.
Robbo, just a fairy tale win, isn't it?
Oh yeah, well we came up here, we had a young side in, we didn't have a very experienced side, and we thought it's going to be a tough game, but to our credit we really got in there, intensity, and we come away with the points.
The best ever win you've been associated with?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, on my short career so far, I've played 9 games now. That was just unbelievable. In front of this crowd, it's really, it's a good thing for the club.
Now, mate, you spent some time on the bench in the third quarter, what, just resting up for the last, were you?
I dropped a couple of grads out here, and I was starting to feel it a bit. But the coach gave me a rest and to come back on the last quarter.
And the Eagles, I guess, they're hard to beat over here, so it makes it even better, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, in front of this crowd, geez. No, fantastic win for the boys. Full credit to Danaher.
Finally, mate, who were the heroes today, apart from yourself?
My hero, Stephen Tingay, is just unbelievable. He hits the ball hard. And, there's a lot of good players out in the ground today.
Well, you go enjoy it, mate. Well done.
Days where you just, no, that was I did say 2004. That was not 2004.
No, it was not even close. I was looking for
You did
2004 and I was like going 2004. What,
To do
what,
so quick.
What am I searching for?
You figured that out so quick.
I know. I knew. I just looked for Russell Robinson post game interview West Coast, and there it was.
You love Bluey?
And then I love Bluey. I think he's a legend.
He's a legend.
And he does I don't know, I literally did try and chase him running one day. He ran past, out the front, and he was running and I was running, and I go, oh, God, I think that's Guy McKenna.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm going to run after him. Actually, Vince, the coffee shop, that we go to the coffee shop,
here, yeah.
he goes, I'll introduce you. And I went, no, I don't want to be weird.
Yeah.
I don't want to be weird. I don't want to be that weird person.
It's okay.
I have
you
problems.
Like that with me, and your wife was like that. It was really awkward.
It was weird when my wife, because my wife is your biggest fan, and it was sort of like worlds collided. She looked at me and she went, inferior guy, the man of the hour.
Yeah.
And
you
I
know,
went, oh.
She also loves Shane Woden.
She loves Shane Woden.
Another WA
And you
boy.
nearly said you were going to go, bring Shane Woden over, and my wife's head exploded. She just went, oh my God, Shane Woden and Russell Robinson in the same room, and my husband.
That's awkward.
Who cares?
And I reckon a lot of the Melbourne supporters would love to have that similar sort of thing with. Well, they would have similar. The girls would have that with Craig Turley or the West Coast supporters.
When I was a kid, I wanted to Craig Turley had the same haircut.
Slayer with the
and
ladies.
you just run around.
Craig Turley came to the club. He was really good friends with Jimmy Steins. They were really close. I do remember that when I first got to Melbourne as an 18-year-old, going up to Bond University for our first camp. You want to hear a great story? We went to Bond University, Brisbane camp, pre-season. Neil Danaher's first crack at it. We went to Southport Sharks, really good club up there in the Quaffle, and I'm not sure what they're in now. I think, don't know, playing the VFL, don't they? Anyway, we've gone to that ground, and we started off. First thing we're going to do, handball games. My team, I was on with Matthew Phoebe, all those guys back in the day. Wally Lovett. You would know who they did. Glenn Lovett. Remember
Glenn Lovett? Yeah, the Lovett brothers.
The Bald Eagle.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to play on Alistair Clarkson, and he comes over to me and he stands on me, and ball goes up in the air. This is the first training session ever. I was a skinny kid you just saw there. Yeah, exactly. Whack. Yeah. I was on the ground. I don't know what happened. I look up, and it was Plugga. He said, "Welcome to the AFL, son."
Wow.
And it wasn't dirty or anything. It was just a really big bump that got me in the head. Thanks, Clarko. Good on you, mate.
It was a really big bump that got me in the head.
Deliberately. So I knew what I was up for. Can I go to the board?
Yeah,
here?
go
Because
to
there's
the
some
chat.
really good questions. So why did Turley come? I'm not sure. I wasn't privy to any of that. It was before my time, but didn't really sort of last it. It was the end of
I
his
reckon he
career.
liked the colours better.
Yeah.
I reckon blue and red.
Yeah,
He was
possibly.
fashionable, dude, and he just liked blue and red. It just looked good. Blue and red are good colours.
I do know
Like,
he's a bit
blue
of-
and yellow is pretty crap.
Pretty
Let's
crap.
be fair.
He's a bit of a tree hugger, old Craig Turley.
Yeah.
I heard that he put himself up in a tree so someone wouldn't cut it down.
Most West Australians do stuff like that.
You do that
Like,
regularly.
where you just no shoes, climb trees, don't let them cut them down, whatever.
Jaden Hunt went to the Eagles.
Yeah.
And I for the Eagles, I
Great
thought it was a
pickup.
good move because
Yeah, someone with speed and
some
talent.
speed and talent, can run, can break the lines, and he did some nice things in the game last week.
He's
Kicked a nice goal.
been really good for us.
For him, I mean, obviously you're not winning, but you know, there's time. There's time. Let's just wait on that one with Jaden because, you know, maybe he was thinking he wasn't going to get the run at Melbourne.
The weather's nice.
Yeah.
The beaches are pretty good.
Yeah,
Like,
he's a
I don't
very-
think he regrets it.
He's a very laid back guy.
I reckon he likes, there's a bit of surf.
He'll be
It's
right.
good cafe culture.
Absolutely.
Still like
Kingo
Melbourne
was a
better.
great player. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Brooks. That's been a great show. I've really enjoyed that. Tonight.
And thanks for joining, everyone. Hopefully, we'll be back next week. I guess stay tuned to our Facebook page and see if Robbo can figure it out. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
What do you mean? It's not like we can get cancelled, though. No one's paying us
No
to do
one's
this.
cancelling us. No.
We're not getting paid.
No one pays us either.
We do this. I do this. We do this for the.
It costs me money to do this.
For the Melbourne supporters.
I do it for the Melbourne
Out
supporters,
of the
which is
kindness of
weird,
our hearts
isn't it?
to talk about the demons.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
It's fun. I'm going to get him. He's going to be a Melbourne supporter by the end of this. See you, Barry.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week. Good luck, Dees. I'm
Dees.
sure you'll be fine.
It'll be a long way to beat that. Roach is in the Robertson.
It's coming home. It's coming home, Ben. Miller, the curse is finally over. The curse is finally over. Remember, guys, we wrote the rules of the game. We wrote the rules back in, what was it, 150 years ago. We wrote the rules. This win is largely due to the support of you guys. Hey guys, we're back again. Russell Robertson live.